The Triumph Speed 400 was my favorite motorcycle from last year. In fact, it was the first motorcycle that actually had me excited in a long while. So, when about a week ago, I went to the launch of this, the Triumph Speed T4, a more affordable iteration of the Speed 400, I was a bit intrigued. And now that I've finally ridden this motorcycle, I can definitely say that it is... no, I'm not gonna give away the secret just yet. Let me first explain to you what this motorcycle is all about and what it's like to ride, and then we'll get to what I make of it. So stick around to find out how good or bad the most affordable Triumph in India is.
The day is ours and we seize it. Haters, man, they got reasons. Grab the moment, we freeze it.
Now, if you look at the T4, it looks pretty similar to the Speed 400, which can both be a good thing as well as a bad thing. I, for one, really liked how the Speed 400 looked, and the same is true for the T4 too. It has largely the same proportions and design language. Yes, the wheelbase has increased a little bit and the ground clearance has also gone up, which is a welcome change. If you see, it has the same headlamp, the same tail lamp, instrument cluster, and a lot of the bits are same. Where it's different is in the graphics that you see on the fuel tank here and on the side panel. I do like those, and gone is the sort of slightly metallic finish on the side panel which you see in the Speed 400. This one just gets a simple panel. And there is also a focus on blacked out bits here. So you will see that the handlebar, which now is not an aluminium unit, it's a steel unit, it is black. You will see that the fender is also black, and also the exhaust, that is also black, apart from some other bits and bobs here and there. You do not get bar end mirrors with this, you get conventional mirrors which have decent visibility, so that is also fine. And considering that this is supposed to be more city oriented, more laid back, I think the mirrors are fine. The ground clearance, like I mentioned, has increased, and because of that, even the seat height has gone up, but by only 3 mm, which I did not find troublesome. But my colleague, who is 5'6", he did feel that he had to tiptoe a little more on this motorcycle, so that is something that you will have to be careful of. The weight has also gone up, and it's now 180 kilograms, which is slightly more than the Speed. But again, in daily use, I don't think you will notice it too much. However, when you combine it with other factors later on, then that does make a small bit of difference. Now, coming to the downside of this design language. You see, Triumph with the T4 wants to dig into the classic 350 section, and in that segment, what I have seen is that people want a certain kind of look, that classic motorcycle look, which is low slung, which looks heavy, and that the T4 definitely is not. In fact, with the slimmer rear tire, it actually looks a little bit scrawny, especially when you look at it from the back. So, if Triumph wants to lure customers based on the visual appeal, then this is definitely not the flavor that a lot of the buyers are looking for. I would be really interested to know what you think of the design. If you are a buyer looking for a classic-ish motorcycle, would you pick the conventional ones or this slightly sporty design? On the brighter side of things, well, the fit and finish levels are still pretty high, and it's something that you would expect from Triumph, and it has delivered on that front. So, a big thumbs up from my side.
I'm not there yet, but I'm so close. Shine your light on me, I'm lost. Feeling around in the dark. I can feel it, I'm so close.
Okay, let's take a seat and talk about this engine. It's going to take a while, that's why I'm sitting down. So, this is the same TR series single-cylinder engine that you get with the Speed 400 and the Scrambler 400X. However, Triumph has changed the mapping and some internal components so that it produces about 9 bhp and 1.5 Newton meters less compared to those motorcycles. They've also changed the rear sprocket to go down to a 39 tooth unit instead of a 43. How has this affected? Well, like I said, the power and torque numbers are reduced, but they're still quite a bit more than other classic 350cc-ish motorcycles that it competes against. Also, what Triumph has done is that they've made the engine more torquey. So they say about 85% of the torque is available as low as 2500 RPM, so that this has a more easygoing and a more city-friendly character. And out on the road, you definitely do feel that surge in torque so low down does compensate for a lot of the lack of power that this engine has. So in city traffic, you will not feel like this bike has lack of power, even if you are riding with a pillion. So it can take load and still get you out of traffic and off the red light pretty quickly. However, the downside is that the moment you start pushing this motorcycle and reaching higher speeds, you will notice a lot more resistance from this engine. It runs out of breath. So in the Speed 400, I saw a drop in acceleration after 90 kmph, but in this one, I saw that after about 80-85 kmph. If you like to go fast, if you like to hit triple digit speeds, then the Speed is still the better pick. This one can do 100 quite comfortably. It's just that it is going to take a little while. Talking about doing cruising speeds comfortably, another upside of having plenty of torque is that at 100 kph, you will be running lower revs compared to the Speed 400. According to Triumph, it's about 500 RPM. And I also observed something similar. Because of the digital instrument cluster, it's a bit hard to nail down at what exact RPM did I hit 100 kph, but it's there or thereabouts. However, I did not notice any reduction in vibration. This still is quite a vibey motorcycle. It's not annoying, but with the new state of tune, you would have thought that it would feel a little more relaxed, but it definitely does not. The 6-speed gearbox still gets a slip and assist clutch, and it is also pretty good to use. It has nice and crunchy gear shifts. However, the gearing on this feels shorter. So even though Triumph said that you will be having fewer gear shifts with this motorcycle because of the amount of torque, that is not exactly the case, because in the city, most likely you are either getting off the line, maybe from a traffic light, or you are slowing down to a halt again at a traffic light. So when you are shifting up the gears, you need to shift quite quickly compared to the Speed. So in that aspect, I don't think there's a change. And even though it can hold a higher gear at lower RPM, I at one point was doing about 35 kmph in the 5th gear and the bike did not stall or stutter, so that is good. But I did not encounter that many situations where I felt the positive response of the engine on the gearing. So you will still be shuffling through gears quite a lot. So overall, while yes, this is quite capable in the city, I do feel that the Speed is still better. Yes, it does not have that punch and jerk somewhere around 3,000 to 4,000 RPM, which the Speed does. This is a more laid back and relaxed riding motorcycle. The response throughout the rev band is a lot more linear. And for people looking for that kind of response, yes, they will like the T4. But I just feel that the Speed 400 was not as unruly that you would want to pick this over the Speed 400 in terms of just the engine characteristic. Some other bits and bobs about the motorcycle: you do not get a ride-by-wire system with the T4, and you do not really feel the lack of that technology because thankfully they have calibrated the accelerator in such a way that you do not get a lot of resistance and you do not feel that ride-by-wire is missing. The other thing that Triumph has taken out of the T4 is the traction control system. Now, personally, I don't think a 40 bhp motorcycle really needs traction control, but some other people with lesser experience would probably beg to differ with that opinion. I do not mind it, but considering the price differential, I think that should have been here. Oh, and also the exhaust, well, this has been tuned differently. They have a new profile for the airbox and also for the throttle body. So you get a more bassy sound in line with the competitors that it is going up against. So let's have a quick listen. Triumph says that with the reduced power output and the new engine map, the T4 compared to the Speed 400 should give you about 10% more mileage, which comes out to 30 kmpl according to them. Now, I've not had enough time to do a proper test, but in my limited running, I did observe a figure of about 26 kmpl Granted that we were riding it pretty hard for our shoot, so I'm guessing with more conservative riding, you can kind of hit that 30k mpl mark. But that's a 10% increase in mileage in exchange for about 22% reduction in power. Would you take that? Another big visual as well as mechanical change in the T4 is the front suspension. Instead of USDs, you get conventional telescopic forks. However, these are beefy 43mm dia units and they're actually much better at absorbing potholes and bumps that you encounter in the city. The suspension travel is the same at 140mm, but the absorption, like I mentioned, is much better, and this one does not get unsettled as easily as the Speed 400. However, I don't think the same memo was given to the rear suspension, which has a 120mm travel. Yes, it's the same monoshock, but it has been retuned for this motorcycle. But like I said, that does not feel as comfortable. In fact, it's quite stiff. So when you're riding the motorcycle, even though the front is softer, there is now a mismatch between the front and rear suspension character, and you still end up feeling uncomfortable when you go over bad roads. So maybe a softer tuning for the rear suspension would do magic for this motorcycle. I tried the stock setting both with just me on the motorcycle and with a pillion as well, and in both cases the pillion also complained of the lack of absorption over at the back. The T4 comes with MRF Nilo Grip Zapper tires. These are same 17-inch wheels, but over at the back, like I mentioned earlier, instead of a 150 section tire, you get a 140. Also, these are bias ply tires, not radials, so that will irk some buyers because you're not getting the performance tire. However, in the city, I actually did not have too many complaints with the tires. They performed really well. Yes, I did not ride them in the rain to give a verdict on that, but on normal riding conditions, they are pretty good. They provide good grip even when you are going through fast bends or if you're doing triple-digit speeds. The upside is that these tires should last longer than the radial counterpart. Now, coming to the brakes, you get the same size rotors at both ends and you still get dual channel ABS. However, instead of sintered pads, you get organic ones. But despite this change, in city, I did not have any complaints with the front brake at least. The rear definitely lacks bite, and even if you mash on the lever, it does not stop as quickly as I would have liked, but the front has plenty of bite when you press it initially and then has good feel and progression as well. And now to answer the most important question. What do I think of the Triumph Speed T4? Well, it reminds me of the Triumph Trident in that both of these motorcycles are really good in isolation. But the moment you introduce Triumph's own offerings in the mix, things turn, and for the worse. I mean, the T4, for example, has plenty of power, it's pretty agile, it's quite comfortable in a lot of aspects and can be a good city riding motorcycle. In fact, when you compare it to the retro cruisers that are available in this segment, it destroys them in terms of raw power and torque output. However, if you are looking for that classic motorcycle feel, that really laid back cruising, then the other motorcycles kind of do it better than this. And if you're in the hunt for absolute power, then the Speed 400 is there for you. Plus, the pricing puts it bang in the middle of these two kinds of motorcycle. At 2.17 lakh rupees, it's 23,000 rupees cheaper than the Speed 400, which, considering all the things that are left out of this motorcycle, I think I would just pick the Speed 400 over the T4. Since the Speed 400 is so good, I have trouble recommending the T4 over that motorcycle. You could say that Triumph is a victim of their own success. But if you think about it, that's not a bad problem to have, is it?